2,300 years ago, in what must have been a slow, sunny afternoon, two friends who were guarding their king's tomb found a stone and carved these 19 words on it, and they translate into I, Gong Cheng De, together with Jiu Jiang Man, who are guards of the king's tomb, hereby fishing on order of the king, sends our regards to future generations reading this inscription. The stone then was forgotten for the next 2,200 years until 1937, when a farmer found it and brought it home to be used as a stool, until archaeologists scouting around the area in the 70s found the stone and brought it to Hebei Museum, where it sits today. Many questions arise from these few words. Which king's tomb were they guarding? When was this inscription made? Who were these two persons? The first clue comes in the writings themselves. Every single word used here has similar or identical descendant words in modern Chinese today. Experts are able to determine that this script were used prior to China's unification by Qin Shi Huang 2,200 years ago. Also, based on the font, which is similar to the script of the state of Qi, but were written in a style with longer strokes, tells us that this inscription is written in the state of Zhongshan, a warring state contemporary of the state of Qi, whose territory encompassed the area where this stone was found. So we have a rough date. The state of Zhongshan existed between 410 BC to 296 BC. But which king was the two characters guarding in that 120 years existence of the state of Zhongshan? This is surprisingly easy to answer. Shi Ji records that the state of Zhongshan had 7 rulers in that 120 years of its existence, but only the last 3 rulers dared to call themselves king, with the previous 4 calling themselves duke under the suzerain of the Zhou dynasty. Since we have the tomb of a king, this narrows the timeline to the 13 years of the last 2 kings of Zhongshan, between 309 BC to 296 BC, when Zhongshan was eventually conquered by the state of Zhao. Further historians were able to determine that the carving was done by someone who definitely had stone carving experience, but the work is done without stenciling and probably in a very short period of time due to the unequal spacing and freehand casual style of the font. Something done over a slow and quiet afternoon, perhaps. But the last question of who these two characters were is harder to identify, and we may never know. Literate persons during this time would most likely not be a mere guard, but perhaps the captain of the tomb's guards in the service of the king. And the carving was probably done by a professional artisan, paid by the two, as the handwritings were matched to other works unearthed from the nearby king's tomb subsequently. Whoever these two persons may be, they lived in a society that appreciates the passage of history that led to them being where they are then, and are conscious of the fact that their actions might be discovered by future generations. I wonder if it crossed their minds that it would take 2,200 years before their inscriptions were rediscovered by people no longer speaking their language, and the writings have evolved so much that it takes specialists to decipher the meaning. But perhaps we as people with historical hindsight know that whatever whimsical afternoon joy these two were having would be short-lived, as they would most likely live to see or witness the end of their kingdom in 296 BC in the hands of their neighbors, the Zhao, who in turn suffered a horrific defeat in the hands of the Qin at the Battle of Changping in 260 BC, where 500,000 died on the Zhao side alone. The aftermath of which the state of Zhao limps towards its eventual defeat in 221 BC, with Qin establishing the unified China after that.